Welcome to the October 7th St. Mary's City Commission regular meeting. First thing we'll look at is there's a misprint there. It's actually appropriation ordinance 1280. And I forgot that. What is it, Maurice, the emergency fire equipment?
That's for that grass track,
Okay,
the bed of it,
yeah,
and then a small amount for a muffler type thing.
okay, sorry. Any other questions or comments on that? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve appropriation ordinance 1280 as presented.
I so move.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye, and none are opposed, so that's approved. Second item is proposed minutes from the last meeting.
There was just that one error on the VHS storm damage, where I had Commissioner Kleinson abstaining when he did not. So,
Yep.
I was wondering why.
Otherwise, it good. Yeah, you change that?
I already changed it, so you can, yeah.
That's fine.
So those are approved. Anything to add to the agenda?
Want to add a armory rental for Zelka? Very next.
Well, it's probably a rental waiver, right?
Yes.
Alright, so we'll add that at the end. Item I. Anything else? Okay. So we'll proceed. First up is BG Consultants, talking about our favorite topic, I think, sewage.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
Good evening, everybody.
I'm gonna move that for you. Work along.
Oh, okay.
Unless you,
I made it up this far.
Well, I know, but I don't know if it's for the camera purposes.
No, I just forgot.
Okay.
We put it away for courts.
Thank you. Okay. Several things to discuss tonight. My associate, Daniel Monaco, had an emergency crown put on, and he texted me and said he's going to be about 5 minutes late, so he'll be walking in the door here shortly. The discussion I have for you tonight, we got through the frenzy of bidding a lot of these bigger state projects and so on that had to do with the end of the fiscal year, got through that. What we saw is construction index that kind of varied across the state. But around here, it seems to be fairly stable. You never know till we take bids, and that's going to be the action that I ask of you tonight, is to authorize us to go ahead and advertise and take bids based upon a schedule I'll discuss with you. Different than the water line project, this is sanitary sewer. If we go ahead and actually go into construction, we will be keeping the academy apprised of everything that's going on. There'll be construction meetings and that type of thing. And there is a requirement of full-time inspection, but we think we have a way so that our construction administration services aren't quite as expensive. Don's agreed to do part of that, and then we'll be here on all the critical items. And then two, once we receive bids in November, we're going to take a hard look. I know about every contractor in the state that does work, so hopefully if we get a good contractor, that'll affect the costs associated with doing that work. But what I'm proposing to you tonight is to give authorization to BG Consultants to go ahead and advertise for construction, keeping in mind that this is your money and isn't tied to any grants or any other type of funding. other than municipal bonds. And so you don't have to adhere to any state or federal requirements other than KDHE minimum design standards. So upon your authorization tonight, we are prepared to advertise reasonably immediately. And I have to look here. I apologize. I had a cancer treatment at 4 o'clock this afternoon, so I'm kind of shaky. So bear with me. If we get it to the paper this week, it'll come out on the 16th. And then we propose to have a pre-bid meeting on October 23rd. And contractors like to come, look over the site, get a general idea what they're getting into and that type of thing. And my experience with that has been that that to a certain extent helps the bidding process get better bids, and we don't have any gray areas once we do bid. Then we will bid the project, and Marisa, how old it is? Well, it's the same of what we talked about. Monday, the 3rd of November will be the bid date at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All bids will be required to come to City Hall here prior to 2 p.m. And we will open the bids, read them aloud, and then I take those bids, actually Kirk and I, Provine, take those bids and check for math errors and that type of thing. And then I will come back Tuesday night to your regularly scheduled council meeting on the 4th. And I will have a letter of recommendation to you. And then it's at that time that you actually take action to move forward. You have every right as a city commission to reject any and all bids if you don't elect to move forward. And then, in addition to that, in November, we will have a much better idea of what kind of fall and winter we're going to have. And if you move forward with a general contractor, we will issue a notice of award so that they can start getting their bonds and all of the stuff and the legalese and paperwork that they have to the city. And we can actually start the shop drawing review process. In other words, we have to get the cut sheets from them and approve them to make sure that we're getting the type of materials that we've specified for you for the construction. And so you'll have, and we won't make that decision tonight, you will have the ability to start the project immediately. I mean, if we have a warm, sunshiny fall ahead, we may start the project immediately. We would issue the notice to proceed, or we can elect to wait until early spring to start, because we don't want to get them out there in the mud and just have a mess where they can't work and then they're gone and then they come back. I prefer to have a contractor that moves in, starts, and completes the work continuously. So with that said, I've said an awful lot here. Any of you commissioners have a question about any of that?
Did you have something?
Thanks for being here. I mean, I know the answer, but I just have to ask it. So if you're doing an on-site meeting or meeting with contractors on the 23rd,
Yes.
About a week and a half later is kind of your deadline to submit bids.
Yes.
That's plenty of time for contractors to put together their bids.
Yes. In this instance, it will be, yes.
Pretty simple.
Now, I could push it back and give a full, a lot of the grant funding and like CDBG and USDA, they require a full 30-day advertisement. But the contractors, once they've come and looked at the site, and that will be voluntary, they don't, sometimes we make it mandatory, but it will be voluntary. but they're not gonna put their bids together and start getting their quotes until just a few days before the bid, so it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but it's a good question, and if you prefer longer, we could move it to the second meeting in November to take bids and do the same thing, take bids on a Monday. And the reason I want to do that is we have to take those back, check them all, look for errors, and then we have to write a letter of recommendation. And if I do it the same day, it's hard because I'll come here, take bids, and I have to run back to the office and prepare all the stuff and write the letter of recommendation and then come back to your council meeting the same day. So we're gonna do it on a Monday and a Tuesday.
And then, thanks, that's fine, I mean, your timeline's fine, just it seemed short, but I had to ask a question, kind of the answer. The other question is about the timeline you're giving the contractors to complete the project.
210 calendar days, and I apologize, I forgot that.
That's good.
It will not take them near that long, but that kind of is a game that's played. If we give them a little more time, we've got a high probability of getting better bids.
Yep, I like it, that's great.
And we will hold them to that. If they go past that timeline, there's no excuse. And the liquidated damages will be $300 a day if they exceed that timeline.
I think that's plenty of time, and just making sure we've done that in the past, I think we've done it very successfully, just make sure we're giving them plenty of window.
There's an additional thing that we're doing on this that I need to discuss with you as well. It's called an allowance. And we're going to put a $75,000 allowance as a part of the bidding documents. And what that means is we don't have to come back and forth and wait to get authorization from the city commission on a change order. This is done at the state level quite regularly. Actually, I was the one that introduced this, and it's worked very well. It's not carte blanche. The $75,000 is built into their bid, and it spells all of that out on the bidding documents. And if we have new discovery in the field where it's above and beyond what the contractor's scope originally was, we have the ability, and it will be done and authorized by myself, Maurice, and Don. And the price will be negotiated right there, and then it's put in writing, and that draws out of that $75,000 allowance. Now, at the end of the day, if we have an excellent project and we don't have to use a penny out of that, that's just money that you didn't have to spend to construct it.
Mhm.
So it makes it easier.
Thanks.
And again, I'm going to wait. We have to do, the state requires that on sanitary sewer line, it requires full-time inspection. And so we have worked out with Don and Maurice that we are going to do that as a team. State's fine with that, to minimize your expense. It's still going to be, we still have to do a tremendous amount of work, but we won't have to have an inspector sitting here 12 hours a day while the contractor's working. It's not cost effective to do that. So, but I'm going to wait and see what contractor we do get, and if you award it, and then we'll put the numbers together for our construction administration. So, Mayor, what I would like to have is either a vote or a consensus to move forward with the bidding process.
Any other questions for Pat? I think we could do a consensus on that, yeah. We have a consensus on moving
Yes.
forward with the bidding process.
Yes.
Gravity drain. We have a consensus. Please
Thank you.
move forward with the bidding process.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Maurice, is the bond attorney going to be here tonight? Okay, so,
I thought he was gonna be here, but he's not,
okay.
so.
Well, I've completed my part. Now I'm going to turn it over to Nathaniel, and he's going to talk to you about the wastewater treatment stuff.
And Pat, will we get an updated timeline that you gave tonight? Could you send me a timeline,
Absolutely.
and then I'll provide you that on Sunday? Thanks.
From the dental chair to the,
That's what happened.
I'm supposed to have two? No.
Well, if you, yeah, there should be two cameras. Good evening.
hello, Terry.
He'll be right back.
What we're doing this evening, I want to highlight a few things as we're going through on the wastewater treatment facility plan and get to a point of talking about ultimately what we're looking at is to have items, detailed costs, and get a draft to you by the end of the year so we can look at what those projects are. We can discuss phasing, not to do, whatever. This is a plan. It doesn't direct you necessarily into projects, but it will give you an opportunity of what we would want to focus on. One of the things that I would like to have feedback, and we talked about this before, but the population growth rates that we're looking at as a community. At the bottom of page 1, we kind of broke it down into decades, but over the last 30 years approximately, we've been at about a 1.2% growth rate. And if you go to the top of the second page, that kind of gives you, over the next 40 years, 20 years, what those growth rate representatives would produce as far as population. And I will tell you, we are at 500,000 gallons a day as a permitted facility. And we run somewhere average between 160 and 180,000 gallons, okay? So if you take that retroactively, typically you look at a population is worth 100 gallons of wastewater a day. Your population is more than the 180,000. You're in the range of, we're getting closer to 3,000, but you're running about half of that. So you're probably in a range of, we'll just say 75 gallons per person per day. So if we look at this isn't something that bothers me or concerns me in regards to the facility. It's just something that we'll have to identify, not tonight. I'm not asking you for this tonight, but even if we looked at the 2% growth, we should still be within our permitted facility capacities. But what it does do is it puts us into a trigger side with KDHE that we're getting close to our capacity. But that's 20 years down the road anyway. So that's not, it's not a projection that it's going to give you something to do in the next 5 years. It's setting you up for an understanding of, hey, if we're at 100 gallons per person per day and we're at 4,400 people, you know, we're at 88% of our capacity, and typically between 75 and 80% is when KDHE says, hey guys, are you thinking about the next steps? Just for your information. So I personally would, you know, based off of the rates that we see in your water use, all those types of things, a 2% projection isn't gonna put you into that range. It's not gonna be a concern. It would be a conservative growth rate as you would look at that. But any of those would work. I don't think I would suggest 0.5%. You're doing more than that. So that's just for future consideration. Like I said, the permitted capacity of 500,000, we're typically around or slightly below the 180,000 gallons per day. And that is 0.18 MGD, million gallons per day. That's the acronym that we're using. Overall, on the summary side, what we see out there for permitted effluent values, the plant does a really good job with BOD, TSS, pHs are always good. The E. coli, which is the disinfection side of it, it has some misses every once in a while, but that isn't necessarily abnormal for wastewater. But that would kind of be an issue of equipment age and inefficiencies as opposed to operational conditions. They run the plant really well with that. So that's just gonna be something that's gonna need replaced, at some point in time. However, what the current conditions that we do see out there on a permit side, you're gonna look at three major entities that are constituents that are giving us some headaches in regards to what we expect the future permit conditions to be, okay? The first one is ammonia. That's an initial breakdown from DOD. And this is in the middle of the second page. You have a breakdown of BOD, and it drops down into ammonia. So naturally, the biological process will take that incoming organic material, works it up.
Sorry, Daniel, may not matter, but I don't know what BOD means.
Biological oxygen demand, I do apologize, and I kind of thought when I was driving, I was like, I used too many acronyms without the definition. And TSS is total suspended solids, okay? So why those two are important, those are your two primary drivers of the influent water quality that you're coming into the plant. And the BOD it's a test that's representative of the organic material and how much oxygen it requires to break down, okay? So the higher BOD values, the harder you're gonna have to treat, or more efficient you're gonna have to treat that material. You guys are in standard numbers for your influent for both BOD, the biological oxygen demand component, and the suspended solids. You're not, I would put you right in a good range of what I would call domestic wastewater. You don't have high numbers, and you're not, believe it or not, having low numbers is also a concern. Because the biological process, especially the next steps that will go into the nutrient, you need that food to drive that treatment. If you don't, there are communities that actually buy and pump carbon into their system so that their treatment plant is fed well enough. That doesn't appear to be the case here. So you have good influent quality, but the three components, as I said, that effluent right now, the ammonia, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Right now, ammonia is a permitted constituent. That is something that has been tested for a long time for effluent. And it is a driver of the overall biological process, and operationally, those things can be handled as some more flexibility is provided within the treatment basin itself. That will provide the opportunity to treat ammonia much more efficient. And don't misunderstand, ammonia isn't crazy out of the way, over, but it's something that has jumped over quite a few times. The total nitrogen, actually, you've had some exceedance, but really that plant isn't gonna have a problem with nitrogen. And we expect probably the permit next year will have actual effluent, based off of our current discussions with KDHE, you will actually go from what's called monitoring to a regulatory compliance on nitrogen and phosphorus. And so nitrogen.
That means we'll be more accountable for not meeting the
Yes.
requirements.
Yeah. What typically happens, what KHE does, what they've been doing for the last decade, probably in the state of Kansas, they started with the big suppliers, the big cities, and they worked their way down. But they put communities into what's called a monitoring process for their wastewater effluent. And what they're doing there is, one, they're wanting, the city understands, hey, here's a new constituent, we gotta watch for it. But secondarily, what they're really doing, or have been doing, is they're collecting the data because you're providing them the data. This is what our plant's doing. And then they'll evaluate that within their system to determine, okay, when and at what levels will those new permit become regulatory effluent limits.
Daniel, is their permit, a 5-year permit?
Yeah, it's a 5-year permit and it's due next year.
So
Yeah.
it's not on a 1-year basis. So in theory, you actually will have probably 5 years to accommodate compliance with what Daniel's talking about.
I would say nitrogen would definitely be a case, but typically because they have the info, if they have real concerns with the conditions, they may write in supplementary conditions within the new permit that says, hey, we will give you a certain amount of time. Now, they will discuss that with us and with you prior to that becoming legislative. It will be a discussion. They will let us know, hey, this is what we're thinking. They'll provide you a draft, allow you to respond to it. I've never seen it less than 2 years. So they would give you a 2-year, at a minimum, a 2-year process to say, okay, and that 2 years may be, okay, give us a plan. This facility plan may be something that would satisfy them in that condition. It may be, hey, we would like to have you provide us a schedule of when you're gonna have this done, because we would like it to be done by the end of the 5-year permit cycle, if you will, okay? But nitrogen and phosphorus, all these other components that I spoke of, even the ammonia, is a concentration value, okay? You test it, this is a concentration, you're either above it or you're below it, right? Nitrogen and phosphorus is done a little bit differently, okay? They're nutrients. And the way the state goes through their programming to help them set the levels is they look at every community, and you have a permit of 500,000 gallons a day, right? So when they put it into their modeling system, they say St. Mary's is putting in 500,000 gallons of wastewater every day into the river. You're doing it day after day, 24/7, right? And they have their limits of what they would like to see, and they put that on that 500,000 gallons, and they say, okay, this is as many pounds of nitrogen or phosphorus that we want that city to put into the river, okay? You're running about a third, even say, let's just say a half for the easy numbers. You're running less than a half of the flow value. So when they set a value, for instance, nitrogen will be 10. It will be 10. I have no doubt about that. It'll be 10 parts per million. You're currently running right at that level.
So we're really double.
You're really half.
We're already at 10, and the 10 is based on half.
It's your flow. So you are allowed to put 500,000 gallons of water with a concentration of 10 into the river.
You're saying you want to do half that?
And you're doing 10,
Yeah.
but at a third to a half of that amount of flow.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So technically, you could be at a
Okay,
20
yeah.
and meet the poundage. Okay, that's where I'm going with
I
that.
see.
So I always give the adage, you guys are at 500,000, but to make the numbers easy, if you're 1 million and you need to hit a 10 and you're at 500,000 is what you actually flow, you could hit a 20 or 19 and a half and you're good. Okay, because it's not the concentration. We use the concentration values, but we determine that with the amount of flow determines how many pounds of that material. Because nitrogen and phosphorus, where have we heard that in the state of Kansas? Fertilizer. That's what it is. You know, I mean, it's a good material, but that's what's causing some of the problems, eutrophication in the rivers and the gulfs and stuff like that. So they're trying to minimize that. That's what they've been working on for a long time. So nitrogen is not one that I worry about. However, phosphorus is and will be an issue for the city based off of what we expect those numbers to come back at, okay? Remember, we're currently running about 1/3 the allowable flow, okay? But if I use that same equation on phosphorus for what your numbers are, and I project out, we're twice the allowable pounds. So you're running 6 times higher in a concentration value, if you think about it that way, 6 to 8 times. Now, that is not abnormal for any community, because basically, the plant as it is has some opportunity to be optimized to address that more efficiently. But quite honestly, the biological limits, okay, of biological phosphorus removal is limited to about what I expect your permit level would be, which means you have to be perfect to meet that concentration. There are other ways to take that out on the backside if we have to. We can do it with chemical addition, we can do those types of things. But if we can look at optimizing the treatment to treat the phosphorus to help us treat more efficiently the nitrogen, it's also going to retroactively help us with ammonia. Those aren't cost. In fact, the retrofit should be less energy because we'll be cycling more and in more precise components of how that plant is run. But the real culprit is if we have to look at phosphorus removal beyond those conditions, we have to start injecting chemical, and that can be quite expensive. That's that's a budgeted amount that's going to be quite expensive. And we'll give you some of those components on conditions. But the concentration permit level for phosphorus probably should be a 1 part per million. If you're running half of that, you could theoretically run a 2 and be all right. So biologically, I believe we can optimize that plant to meet that 2 or below, between that 1 and 2 point, which should put us into that condition, meeting the regulatory compliance for quite some time. I really do feel that that's justifiable of your current system. And we'll provide you that update and the impact of costs and those types of things as we go through there. But overall, the plant, it has aging, it has some components, we've talked about that before. You guys are already in process of some of those, you've changed or in process of changing some of those things, and we'll kind of go through that summary at the end here. But any questions? That the regulatory side is the biggest impact of somebody else getting into your business, if you will. So
What did you say you were gonna summarize?
I said at the end, I have like the infrastructure, at the very end of this, I have like a listing of the summary components of kind of what we're focusing on. It's kind of the next step, the next part.
The paragraph said WWTP infrastructure upgrade focus, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Because Mike was here, he's been here a few times, and we're paying for various things that he needs,
Mhm.
but I personally am not an expert on this. So I'm always asking him, all right, if you say we need to buy this, we ask him, okay, but is this gonna impact negatively or counteract something that you're gonna need to do on that 20-year plan that I think we're.
No, we just won't be included. The items that you
Well,
guys,
but I mean, and again, I don't really know what he's talking about most of the time, and I only know what you're talking about half the time here. But we don't want him to do some improvement that's gonna be different from what you say has to happen in order, particularly, what we hear all the time is phosphorus is a problem.
Mhm.
So is this I mean, that's what we keep asking, what's the 20-year plan, so we can make sure that
Right.
we are we're being careful about what we're paying for now, and we're tracking down that one path toward
Right.
making this thing work.
I will say, I fully understand and respect what you're saying, and this will provide that roadmap, if you will. But I will also say that both Maurice and Mike have been, we've been in communication on those components. You know, I know you're doing the bar screen, the washer compactor. I was here last week when we went out there. I actually talked with Mike about maybe there's some ways we can eliminate some other auxiliary concerns of the heating below the deck. If maybe we could move and work with that washer compactor in a little different method. Not that it's not a change, it's not the wrong equipment. It's just how much flexibility can we work through that? And he was gonna contact and see what they're gonna come in and install it, so we're gonna talk to him about that.
Now, I'm gonna ask a question related to what the mayor's talking about. Has the city to date spent any money related to major improvements to the wastewater plant that's putting good money towards that?
Nope, we've had good communication with that, and I think the things that,
So this paragraph or this section is kind of your initial roadmap for, this is what we need to be looking at, what we're trying to do.
for major items,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
For major items, yes. The belt press has been a maintenance component. Now, he has spent some money on that over the last several years, actually. But that's just a process that he has to keep that working. Because that's a major process within the overall treatment scheme. One of the things that we talked about, we're gonna see, we might have some possibilities of looking at some alternates on the sludge process, supernatant control of the water that comes off of the press. Because those can dramatically affect the way that the treatment plant operates, the way that works. So, we might be looking at, we'll give you some options there of some other potential things that might be possible. The aerated grit, that is something that in an efficiency sense, it's a two-pronged method here. One is this equipment is 20 plus years old, okay? So the lifespan of it becomes less efficient as it goes beyond. Not to say that we have to replace it right away, but I would have kind of we'll kind of have a plan for you to say, hey, this is probably what needs to happen. And when you replace that, I don't want it aerated because it's adverse to the treatment process on the phosphorus side. So,
So if we were
there's
to
little
get
things like that. We don't want that to be aerated, and Mike fully understands that. So that will help the treatment basin be more efficient. When we don't necessarily have to go out and replace that tomorrow, but if it failed, we would want to have those discussions sooner rather than later of what should go back in there. Okay. And that's what we'll have laid out. There are some flow meters that we can look at that we'll probably want to do to help on the efficiency side of how we're moving water through that system. The air handler on the roof, that's one thing that we had a long discussion about that last week when we were here, but we've been trying to get that changed, and it's been requested that we provide a design
Is that the
for
HVAC?
that. Yeah.
The HVAC,
To get that done, which we provided a supplemental to do that, but I think in some senses, we know what we need to put in there. We're gonna, if so desired and so approved by the city, we'll do what we call permit level design, enough information that it can be seen there, but it's not, it doesn't have to go to KDHE or anything like that, and you'll locally bid it, probably with the local vendor that you've been working with, and he'll give you a proposal based off of that. That's our understanding. So like, on item 1G at the top of page 3, that's already been going. You've got the screen, you got the washer compactor, it's just getting ready to get installed. I know he had the washer compactor sitting out there when we were there last week. So on the process basin, and I'll have some detail, I'll have some drawings and layouts for you as part of the facility plan. But we need to look at how we modulate the air throughout that whole system. And that's going to enhance the treatment efficiency, not only of the ammonia, it'll address the nitrogen, and it will help us be more efficient on the phosphorus side. So what that really constitutes is we're gonna have some more control of the diffusers and of the amount of air that goes in there. I don't think we're probably worried about changing blowers or anything like that. But we'll strategically need to probably be adding some diffusers in certain areas, maybe removing others, or at least shutting them off for this point in time. So that we can trim as we go through those systems. I did see that Mike had removed or drained the digesters and removed a lot of solids out of that system. And by solids, it wasn't biosolids, it was gravel. It was inorganic material that just settles out, which tells me, now it hadn't been cleaned since it's put in, so you got 20 plus years. But he said there was a lot of stuff in there. You were getting, I don't believe it probably started on day one. It's probably just a inefficiency of the existing grit removal. As that efficiency goes down, the material that makes it into that plant goes up. And he was gonna do the other basins and clean those out as well. The diffusers look pretty good. He said he had to clean a couple of them out, but they all work. And
Well, we were asking about that last time. What kind of effect can that have on what we're trying to change in the plant? If you remove all of that material,
it
more
increased.
volume, so
yeah.
what does this mean?
So what that plant was designed to is based off of a volume,
Yeah.
right? And the volume is it's so wide, it's so long, and it's so deep. And we can utilize that full depth, right? Whether it's in an aeration basin or whether it's in a digester. When you get inorganic material that starts settling in there, what it does is it removes a portion of your depth.
Yeah. So
when you remove it, you're giving it more depth, you have more flexibility, you have a higher opportunity for efficiency in that treatment.
So it could help with our phosphorus, nitrogen somehow.
The phosphorus is the trickiest, but yes, it should help all those things. So the thing that will help him the most in an operational condition is because when he has to move sludge a certain amount of time. It only holds so much. So if he has to run his belt press 2 times a week, because he drains it to a point, then it fills back up and he's got to do it again, right? Well, part of that problem was he took the top 2 feet out of a 12-foot depth, or top 4 feet. That's what he used to process out, right? Well, if the bottom 3-4 foot is full, he has to fill it faster because he can't take it all the way down because it's not sludge, it's inorganic. So there's just ways that might be more efficient for him to say, hey, I can run 2 days straight and I can take this all the way down and I can get a lot of it out, and then I don't have to worry about it for a week. He really can't do that now. He's kind of handcuffed a little bit with that. So that should definitely help on the digester side. I haven't talked to him yet, of how he's got on the aeration basin, but he had planned on taking those down as well. And cleaning that stuff out and then the pump. So I think that's very good. I mean, it's been, like I said, well over 20 years since that's happened. It's never happened officially, I guess, so. And just so you understand, the digester is the last part. It's the last settling basin. So it's gone through 1 aeration basin, 2 aeration basins, goes through a clarifier, then makes it over to there. So I expect we'll see some additional stuff in those other basins as well. The only advantage with that is they can, with aeration, you can jumble that stuff, and the first one, it pushes it into the second, a certain portion of it from the second goes into the digester. So, but I would expect there'll be quite a bit in there. So a lot of those items at the bottom side of number 2 are already in process as we go through there. He did say after he cleaned the digester and he turned his air on that he couldn't believe how much air, he was sending so much air into the digester, it was minimizing it from the aeration basin. So yeah, you have to watch that, and it's because he cleaned around those diffusers, they weren't just blowing right into rock, they were wide open, so, which is good, we know it works well, so. The operations building, there's certain components that we have in there that we'll look at, and those could be very piecemeal type of, hey, when this goes out, let's plan on replacing it with this. The one that I believe we'll probably have to do, or 2, is 3B and 3C. Will probably need to be done if and when the process basin is upgraded, because that's gonna give the SCADA control, that is the computer control and monitoring of the system, and we'll want to have more flexibility, so we'll probably have to enhance that a little bit. It becomes more operator friendly, if you will, but more computerized. You can dial in schedules, you can dial in things so that, hey, when this happens, this is what the process reacts to. So if you have high flow come in, it automatically switches it over into a different condition. And I think we'll probably have some of those components that will be included. Maybe not required, but included as probably probable. And then in the operations buildings, there's some of these in the louvers and the air draft fans and things like that we'll probably have to look at. Now, item 3I, that's a much bigger project or potential. That would be replacing water main from the plant to the north. Because right now it's a 2-inch, and he doesn't have a whole lot of actual water supply. If he runs his belt press, he doesn't have water anywhere else basically in the plant. So it's a long stretch of 2-inch water main. So, and I think, the other things, like I said, the louver, the louvers and the things and replacement, there's items, if you go in and look, do we replace doors? Do we replace windows? Because they're rusted. I mean, they're rusted around because of the atmosphere and the environment in there. Now, the HVAC, the makeup air unit that you're in process of doing, that's gonna help move that air a lot better, because right now it's not running. And even during the summer, operating correctly, it should be moving air all the time. It doesn't heat, but it has to move air so you don't get that corrosive environment. And you can see it's affected everything in there. So those would be things of, hey, you need to replace those. It could be an X amount of dollars, but that's another, maybe not if, a win, but you guys pick the win when that happens, so. So in the summary, We're good on flow. I think we'll be good on, whatever you decide as far as the population projection, but, I'd like to just have that included so I can have all of the documents, done through that. And the BOD and the TSS are doing well, on the primary, treatment side, the ammonia, and then the ammonia needs some help, which I think with the operational, changes and the flexibility that would be provided, will do that. The phosphorus is, like I said, over 3 times probably the number that we need to have, 3 to 5 times higher. The nitrogen is real close, and I can see auxiliary, the improvements that we would discuss auxiliarily would help drastically with both the ammonia and the nitrogen. Those two very, very well, so.
You wanted, I mean, you obviously wanna have a number for projected growth rate.
I would, I mean, that could be at your next meeting or first meeting in December, or whatever.
Well, I'm just,
decide.
if the growth rate has only been 1.21% since 1990, we only have so much, we're talking about within city limits, right? Or whatever.
Whoever
what
would
we-
connect into the
yeah, who connects
wastewater.
into-
It's most of the
I don't know how we could have a steeper growth rate than what we've had over the last 30 years, given the constraints. But- So it seems 2% is really high. If you wanted to be pretty conservative, it seems like 1.5 would be
And that's, but
reasonable. I mean, I don't really know.
it's something that we have to provide KDHE so that they know what your thoughts are. And obviously, things can change. It could drop down, it could go higher.
Yeah, that's interesting, because if you look at there was it increased, then it increased, and it dropped off.
Yeah,
So I don't know if that's because the town, we just didn't have any space to build, what does that mean?
This is based on census data?
Mhm.
Yeah. Don't know how accurate it's based on.
yeah, I mean, there's truth to that too,
The most conservative thing would be to say 2%, I suppose.
but it would be the most conservative because it's gonna give you the highest value. But like I said, we're going to retroactive, take that and say, okay, if your population is here and your flow's this, your per capita growth is, or your per capita wastewater production is this value. If it's at 75 or 80, it's below the 100. So if you do a 2%, that's not gonna affect any other condition in there right now. It's just a number and the information to back it up.
I think geographically, it's not possible to go over 2%, just looking at floodplain and all the restrictions around the city. So from my perspective, we're safe at 2, and I think that's overestimating.
That's fair.
I
And
agree with
it's not something that's gonna pick that adds dollars at the end of what our projections are.
Daniel?
Yeah.
I'd like to mention one other thing, and maybe you're gonna talk about it, maybe I'm a little bit ahead of you, but your existing legislation within the community, your ordinances and stuff, a lot of times we see if communities don't have the appropriate legislation, you may get an opportunity for a high demand plant to come in of some sort. And if you have the appropriate legislation, they have to do pre-treatment on their own and pay for that and be permitted so that you don't get into trouble with everything that Daniel's talked about tonight. So that may be something else that needs to be addressed to make sure that, you know, if you get an opportunity for a plant to come in of some sort or a business, that's
slaughterhouse.
Yeah,
Yeah, so our code's rather lengthy. I believe we've got some of that covered, if not all of it. This is a cookie cutter from many years ago, but we can review it for sure.
I think that, and we'll have info in there as far as that, but if we can go ahead and find that, I mean, The slaughterhouse condition is a great thing, so is a great example. Like right now, your BOD, the biological, that test for the material that comes in is about level of 250. That's parts per million. A slaughterhouse could be 20 to 50,000. That's a little bit more. And all of their wastewater typically, not all, but it's short runs. They do their kills, they wash all that down, then they wash the floor, and then they're shut down for quite a while. So you get these big slugs of high concentration, and that's not something that this plant, or really any plant below probably 2 MGD could ever even think about handling by itself. So.
All right, so it sounds like what we could do is just set that 2% growth as our conservative, just for your
That'll be,
purposes.
that'll be.
And then we're waiting for a facility plan where you're gonna give us more detail on these parts.
We'll have that by the end of the year, and whether we discuss it at the end of the year or first of the year, or whatever.
What would be helpful to me, and I think for all of us, would be for any improvement, anything that you're talking about here, could you identify the ones that you anticipate will directly or likely address our concern, which is primarily phosphorus? Because I don't, that.
There's a lot of aesthetics that will
Yeah,
be.
that's
in
what
there.
I-
I follow what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so then we can really prioritize those.
We'll do it like a regulatory priority and a longevity priority or something. We'll differentiate that, but that's a good point. We can definitely do it that way.
Thank you.
One of the projects, that, if I'm understanding this correctly, that we can and probably should do as soon as possible is kind of what Mike did recently to those areas that, I've got the term, anyway, that hadn't been cleaned out in a while, so we had the gravel built up. So we have that in the aeration basins as well, probably.
Yes.
So there's nothing holding us back from
No, and
saying
his current plan is in process with that as well.
he's on that right now. Could we get a follow-up maybe at next city commission meeting, just what his timeline is on?
I have that, but you did pay for his first endeavor of $7,650. Keep in mind, we're looking at an HVAC system that could be $40,000. We have a $105,000 washer compactor out there. I'm not sure if we're gonna have to put that off till next year. We'll get the numbers and we're probably fine, but before we do that, we will have an update.
Thanks.
Okay, I have what I need if you.
Do we need to talk about the?
We have the HVAC.
Oh, yeah.
So, go ahead.
Well, like I said, we tried to work with the vendor that's done work out there, and what they had said is they need a design so that they can get the equipment and install it, and that's what we're proposing. We proposed just a supplemental based off of our existing agreement, the legal. This doesn't change any of the other legal aspects of that original agreement.
So initially, DeCipio thought the unit would have to be moved because it's too close to the side. And that was gonna set forth a lot of costs and all that sort of stuff, but they decided that it would have a metal railing.
I think we can do that.
And Mike was looking at one from Irma that he wants to know why we can't do it rough. And I said, well, whatever we need to do here. So that would be handled separately as far as this agreement. So the HVAC, this would be them putting it together, and we could get one or more quotes to have it replaced. And
It'll give you that flexibility.
It could be upwards of 40 grand. I mean, we don't know exactly.
But they won't do any work unless they have a specific plan generated by it.
The one that was directly spoken to said, yeah, we need to have this, and a big part of it initially was predicated because the location of that does not meet code today. It did when it went in, but not today. And so they had said, we have to move it we kind of came up with something else that like, well, you don't if you do this, and I think we can do that. And that'll help the efficiency of replacing this at the same spot, instead of doing all these other things to move it and bring stuff back.
So for tonight only, we're asking that you consider amending the agreement for this additional work. It was $7,500 is what they have on there. It was sent out this afternoon. They will then put the drawings and stuff together and bring it to us. And then we can decide when to get the estimates. But yeah, our regular vendor had all kinds of issues, rightfully so, mind you.
Yeah.
We had to come up with a solution and they did.
So we should probably vote on that, it's
I think
$7,700.
so. There's a document to approve, I would ask that you,
If you're comfortable this evening, fine. If you're not, you
Well,
will
we
wait
need to
till
have it
next.
done,
Well,
that's it. You have to have the study done before we can get the HVAC, I don't know that we have an option. We know you've never written a song. So, if there's any other, is there any other discussion about that? That's my last point. So I guess I would entertain a motion to approve a supplemental agreement to the agreement with BG Consultants for HVAC design for $7,700.
Mr. Mayor, I so vote.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
you can ask again for a second.
Yeah, we can wait.
The issue is that this has to be explosion proof and there's all these, you know, it's nothing you can just, you know, swap out.
A second.
I have a motion and a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any, you were not opposed, right? That's approved.
5?
5, yeah.
5-0? All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Have a good evening.
You too, buddy.
All right. Next item on the agenda, Bearbackers Armory Rental.
They're looking for free use of the armory on 11/1 and 11/2 for their annual fundraiser.
And that's an annual event that we approve, so, and it's available.
Yep, if there's a consensus.
Consensus? Good.
Have we approved, I know in the past we've sort of waived alcohol and different things, limits like that, or restrictions. Have we approved requests for free rentals in the past on this event?
Yes.
Okay.
Last year for sure, and maybe the year before that, but at some point they were renting it. Just because there's another one added tonight from Mrs. Roselka on their Christmas one, so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So a consensus on that?
Consensus.
We have a consensus on waiving that.
Yes, yes. I'm fine.
Right.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've done in the past that I asked that we add to the next agenda just discussion on the armory rental fee. Kind of just when to waive it, when to not waive it. It seems like there's some instances where it's very clear, it's for the common good, the community. There's other areas where it's questionable. I think there's some gray as far as it helps very specific entities or people. And then there's obviously private events. It seems like we're getting more and more requests for free rentals, which may or may not be a bad thing, good thing, I don't know. But I think it'd be helpful to try to kind of think through what's the concept of free rental of public property versus paid rental. But I'll probably add that to the next agenda.
Sure. So that could be a broader discussion than just the armory for that matter. I think it's a good point. Okay, so we have the consensus though, that you did for this time.
Yep.
The next item on the agenda is Evergy pollution bonds.
So in your packet was information for a refunding of existing revenue bonds. These industrial revenue bonds that these private businesses put out need a sponsor, and it's usually cities, so Wamigo's doing the same thing tonight or whenever they meet. They're refunding existing bonds because at one time it was Western Resources, then it was Westar, and now it's this. The revenue, the pay for it, since it's a revenue bond, can only come from proceeds from the Jeffrey Energy Center, nothing from the city. The city's basically just facilitating them, although they're technically the city's bonds. The payments are all handled by Westar, and the city's not responsible for the situation. So we're already tied to it from 1994. They're just refunding those and issuing new ones. So all that would need to be done would to be adopt an ordinance. That's in front of you is number 1357.
I just have a question. Is Kevin Cowan, is he the guy we're working with for the?
For the sewer bond. So I did ask him, and he was originally, was gonna review them, but the time didn't work out. But his comment was, Maurice, I appreciate the email, but I'm thinking it is probably too late to do anything meaningful, 250 pages, mind you, as this is moving pretty quickly. Having said that, I do agree with your comment that the city has done so for it. So in 2019, the city adopted a resolution in these same bonds, and that was to make an amendment to it. All right, so this isn't our first effort here, and this is a refinance of something that already exists, okay? So it's nothing new, they're just changing the entity that we're paying them back. So the city can have some comfort in that. Also, the city can only pledge revenues from the Evergy projects to the payments of any of these bonds, so no general city revenues involved here, so that should also provide some comfort. So he's basically saying it's not gonna affect the city's finances, but it's an industrial revenue bond, and they need a public sponsor, and the other city's doing it as well. So it's just adopting the ordinance.
Any comment on that?
Has this been looked at by the city attorney and
I did send it to him, whatever, and he always defers to the bond, whatever. He didn't have any problem with
he
it,
didn't?
but he's not the bond attorney and that sort of stuff, so. But interestingly, our bond attorney reviewed Wamigo's version, which is similar to this, so.
We incur no debt.
No, because we're already, the city's already involved in this. It's just with Westar and Western Resources, and then when they buy each other out or merge,
They change the name.
it just transfers. So the refunding what's already out there and issuing new ones, the city is, and then Western, or
Okay, so what action do we need to take?
adopt ordinance number 1357 as presented.
But it says in here that, are you gonna read the entire thing, Matt?
I can,
I'm not,
if I can find it.
this whole thing that they presented to us,
Now, I put a 4-page summary in there that I did that
yeah, it
says,
said the following ordinance introduced in written form by Mayor Childs was read in full.
the ordinance, not the 250
Yeah,
pages.
this is, we have this here.
So,
Oh, I see, I understand.
Yeah,
I mean-
well, look, that's what it says.
I mean, if you, historically, we haven't read them,
You used to have to read things twice, many, many years ago.
yeah.
But, you want me to go through it? I'm not Mayor Childs, but.
Well, I can read it in full if you'd like. The following ordinance was introduced in written form by me, read in full pursuant to made by, good.
If you're open to a motion, I'm happy to make a motion, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
I would very much be open to a motion to adopt, I'm sorry, I'm just looking for the number,
1357?
ordinance 1357 as presented.
Mr. Mayor, will we adopt ordinance 1357, the Evergy pollution bonds as presented?
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That is adopt. I missed my chance to read, but I don't know, Francis didn't wanna hear my voice.
That's fine.
Fine.
Fine with me.
The next item on the agenda is, boom truck permits. We have a discussion on that. No?
Over here.
If he's not here, we just skip it.
Okay. Second Street DEAP. I know you've been enjoying this, but now you have to.
I have no idea what I'm about. So back in beginning of August, we received the final draft. It was pretty thorough. Some of the things they had on there were low, medium, and high cost recommendations and improvements. Bob and Maurice and I met, and we kind of talked about the feasibility on some of these items. Not to say, you know, if there are other ones that the commission wants to look at or consider, then that's perfectly fine. But the ones that we looked at that we felt were low cost and potentially would have a positive impact would be, you know, simple things like painting the edge lines on Second Street. That would help kind of give the illusion of a little bit of a narrowing of the lanes and hopefully bring down the speed a little bit. The signage, they did a full signage study as far as the signage that's across from Elm Street. Along Second, as far as like distances and what should and should not be there. Crosswalk. The crosswalk, there's a page that goes into kind of the weeds on some of the recommended potential crosswalk markings. The point of that being is just making it kind of more visible for pedestrians. Then there's one that was not in the study, but when we had our meeting, the staff from the Academy College brought up would be the potential of no parking zones along Elm Street as you enter from Highway 63. And then another one that was at First and Mission Street.
Say that again, no parking on.
No parking,
On
either
Elm?
on one side, both sides, just
Right there.
wish I had a laser point. Exclusively like on this side, just between like the entrance from Sixth Street down here to about the curve.
I see, okay.
That's one potential area that they looked at, and then more maybe you can go down to First and Mission, who's controlling.
That was me, I'm sorry.
First in mission.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I know you're enjoying that.
I was
Yeah.
We'd like to go to another part of town now.
Chief, the academy requested that?
That's weird. Why
Yeah,
would they
so
request that?
we had Nat Parisi and Bill Drew in those meetings, and they felt, especially the one on Mission, since they have they observe traffic coming in and out, they felt like the parked vehicles were creating bottlenecks and things like that. If you can go over to the first.
Oh.
Yeah,
Second, I'm sorry.
go that way.
You said first and,
First in mission.
I hit a car.
First in mission.
There you go.
Parked on that first street.
A little bit towards like the entranceway.
she'll move here.
You can do it, Maurice.
I wait.
You want to take over the
And this was another area that they pointed out just because they felt there were some vehicles that park along here that would create some bottlenecking before and after school and during church Sundays and stuff like that. So like I said, with those two parking zones, they were not, it wasn't that they studied it and said you guys should do it. It was just included in there because those staff members were like, oh, hey, that would be a suggestion that we would have to potentially make it better. The other one that some of you all corresponded with me, which I didn't include in my initial recommendations email because, again, I was looking at low cost, was the sidewalk on North Second Street. That would be really neat and helpful. They estimated that at about $43,000, and that would run from Mission. It wouldn't really have like a connecting point with Alma Street, but it would go on the east side and just
connected to
Go up
the
the hill.
walking path.
yeah, go up the hill and that way, because they actually do, it was actually, that is in there, it's actually neat in the study, they had like photographs, kids were walking up North Second Street and stuff like that from Mission. And then, yeah, so it would kind of create a little bit of a
With that,
juncture with the existing trail.
You'd have to make Second Street more narrow or take something out of the
No,
east
just-
side of the-
Well, that's where it would get interesting as far as like the easement on
Can you go
the
down?
east side of North Second Street. They just kind of just put it in there, I don't know what would go into, like what the size of the easement is. They said given the gradient, you could just do a straight sidewalk. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Bob's wisdom's kind of more, maybe some stairs should be added in to kind of,
They think you can go straight up second?
just,
What do you think, Bob?
There's some kind of slip resistant stuff they said you could use to help with traction, and they could help us find that.
They definitely walk on both sides of that street every morning.
yeah, so that was a big issue, and that could be a potential fix. And then some of y'all pointed to from the previous meeting as far as Mission and Second Street, kind of the navigation of that. I can by STO, by standard traffic ordinance, they already have some existing curb lines about out 20 or 30 feet. The one by the hydrant doesn't, and so if you are all interested and give permission, Bob and I could better open up that intersection, help keep
Well, I
parking from.
probably asked before, I think that would be a good idea.
Mhm.
But especially when if it gets slippery, but that stop sign,
Mhm.
what I've observed, and sometimes with very close calls, people will stop at that stop sign. And if I'm coming down Second Street, which I do every day, and turn left, I can almost predict when they're gonna drive straight into me. Cause it's stop and then go. So is it not possible to have a big sign that says, left turning traffic does not stop, something like that?
Mhm.
Because I don't. Yeah, put my blinker on. I've even learned to start turning left a little bit early so they can
Pull into the
see
left
that
lane.
there's a car. But it's just amazing to me. They stop and then they go without giving any thought to the idea that the person.
Yeah, they don't
coming
think anybody coming down that hill is dare gonna make it left turn.
I guess.
No, I agree with you, Matt, 100%.
So I don't know, it just seems, I don't know how to, and
Thousands of
I spoke with someone the other day, cause it was a scenario where I was able to say, there is a stop sign, well, and the person said, I did stop, well, but the person coming down the hill doesn't stop.
Yeah, we could look at that, let me make a note. Like, kind of like you said, traffic coming.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how to say it, but I just don't.
And the other thing, was there an issue with turning congestion here?
Does not stop.
I don't.
Yeah, they were saying, what we did with the insurance place is we painted a bunch of curbing to help, open it up. These sides have kind of aged curbing, but this one here could use some, and hopefully that'll keep it open for when people are navigating it,
Yeah, there's 40 feet on
Mhm.
this corner, and this corner.
No parking?
Yeah,
Yeah, like yellow curb.
that was, I don't know how many years ago we painted that, and I haven't heard of any more.
Unless you've all experienced separately. I know they're working on this house, and so it might even be the same trailer. But there's like, this gets congested here and that also creates kind of a little bit of a.
It's mostly just, I think, when another car is coming up, if there's someone parked there, right? But
So you were talking about First Street too, on Mission, is that one of the bottleneck areas?
That would have to be, if that's something you all wish to pursue, like a designated no parking zone where there'd be posted signage. And
Well,
that,
can you do like, hey, don't park, because the only time it's congested is pick up and drop off during,
yeah, like
school. Can you do like, hey, no parking zone from X time?
like in Manhattan where it's like during, I gotta see the verbiage, but I know when I worked in Manhattan, there are ones that are like for schools or certain hours. And it could get dicey with, people might ignore it because they get confused staring at it, but I think it's doable. It depends on what, they're like, oh, no, okay, when, Sunday between these times or whatever, but like I said, if that's something that we could look into, yeah.
Because I mean, you're ultimately taking parking away from those homeowners right there. And
Yeah,
that's what, I mean,
And that's
I
what
can
would
see that's
create, especially when you go up to like Enhanced, when you go up to Elm.
Yeah, that one on 63 and Elm. You got a lot of people that live in
Yeah.
that area.
Yeah,
A
you're
lot of
right.
people sharing residences there.
Yeah,
So it makes for a lot of vehicles.
yeah, you would get,
63 now.
right there. It's that little.
Yeah, you
stretch.
would definitely be affecting a lot of, and to be quite honest, somehow the word got out, because I think these two have been they've been pretty good about it. I know that I've even seen some cars from this residence kind of climbing up on the curb and trying to stay out of the lane of traffic.
I've seen people parking on the new sidewalk.
Yeah, so that's something else you can all consider if you want. Painted curbing there or signs there, or me just going out and just talking to people. It definitely could open new issues up. It could definitely bring a little bit of a, friction or whatnot from property owners, but yeah, that's pretty much what we have. They did talk about traffic circle on the bottom of North Second, but that's completely little, we don't know, that, like Bob and I, and we just feel like it can get weird, it can get really hard to navigate.
There's such different size of vehicles that
Yeah.
go up there, including what the KDOT terms super loads, sometimes get routed up there.
Yeah, so that would, they'd probably run right over the traffic circle. if-
Yeah, they
if-
would be,
if they had to.
there'd be no way around it for them.
Yep.
I thought they weren't allowed to though.
Well, there has to be someone there that can, they're not under watch all the time, yes.
Right.
They're supposed to go up 63 mostly, but sometimes opportunity isn't there, so they look for other, well, we had to take that, you guys had to take that one load up Second Street
Mhm.
because of the construction, because of the water line, yeah. But, so they do occasionally go up there.
So what can or need we do tonight?
I think in my mind, it's like three categories, the cheaper, low impact stuff, which is the markings and the edge lines and the crosswalk and Second and Mission. The parking, I think, requires more discussion because there's more powers, more, man, I'm sorry, it's kind of like. Yeah, there's more discourse, yeah, there's more discussion on how people feel about it, if they feel they want it or not. And then the third one is I think the sidewalk would be really, really neat, but I don't know what the feasibility is, I'm not the money guy.
I was looking at that today, actually, that for going on the east side of Second Street. It's pretty steep on that east side. It would probably take a retaining wall, and then towards the bottom, there's that storm drain that might affect it. And a power pole right there on the corner too, so it would take a study,
Be a little project.
yeah. And then up top by Alma, there's no curb and gutter, and they require you to have a curb line next to your sidewalk or some bollards or something that, keep traffic off the sidewalk.
With the parking, I will throw in there that, we haven't had a vehicle hit, I'm not saying we have to wait for that, but it's been generally
Done recording.
pretty okay. And again, it's not a study-based recommendation, it was just something kind of
Yeah.
thrown in there by staff that brought that up.
So, one option would be to have the staff put together the low-cost options and maybe a timeline. When do we think the striping on Second Street, when would that be? Do we have the county do that?
That's what I usually do when the county's got their trucks going, I just have them
So that's what we can bring back, is some sort of the lower cost stuff, and if you wanna look at the sidewalk.
Yeah, I like that
You
idea.
can do that, we won't do that ourselves.
No, I'd like that, because I think there are a lot of children who go up and down that street. That's one of those where that's a public safety thing in my mind, if it's even possible.
Yeah, I would like to look at maybe not relying entirely on that little slip material, to see if it can't be wound around so that it takes some of the edge off of it, but.
So yes, could we get the low-cost options for,
We'll come back with
Timeline.
recommendations and maybe a timeline and some dollars and see. Thank you.
thanks, Chief. Alright, next item, library flooring quotes, we got a second quote. Oh, Bob, I like your hat, Bob.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yep, we got a second quote from Fox Tile, here, local contractor. I tried to get him to do it apples to apples. Actually, I gave the guy that came up there to look at it a copy of this with no pricing, so it would be apples to apples. That's what we came up with.
Okay, so the Kaiser,
Kaiser,
43,304 approximately.
303.76.
Yeah, and then Fox was 47,930
Yeah.
approximately.
looks like Kaiser, is a better choice there. Look at what they're saying.
If there's no surprises in the flooring.
Yeah.
And the Kaiser bid, and I'm sure the Fox one was too, is bid with the, being completely clean, wiped out down there, nothing, not having to work around shelves and all that sort of stuff. That's an open floor, and that's what his quote, it says it in there, Kaiser's does, so there's gonna have to be some coordination. Maybe they've asked if, depending on when they do this, if city staff can help move stuff, and I said, potentially. It just really depends what's going on, you know, so.
Mr. Mayor, I know this might be for another discussion at a different time, but I'm looking at these bids and the amount of money that we're pouring into that building. I think in the very near future, I'd like to see us discuss the possibility of getting out of the
Library building
library
business.
building business.
Yeah, maybe before we replace them.
Wouldn't hurt my feelings.
Sure, I guess it's probably a good discussion. Put that on an agenda, I think, yeah.
Could you put it on the next agenda, Mark? I'll email you.
In the meantime, we did agree that we would do this. We just wanted to get that second bid, as I recall, or
Correct.
additional bid.
Well, and yeah, an additional one.
So,
Yep, I agree.
any other discussion? Except the Kaiser bid. So
If
do we
you,
need
I would
to-
read, I would read the amount and
Okay.
make the motion based on the
So
amount.
I would like, we have two bids for library flooring, which we had agreed to take care of. One from Kaiser, let me get the right name. Kaiser Floor Contracting for $43,303.76, and the second from Fox Tile for $47,930. So I would accept a motion to accept one of those two bids. Presumably Kaiser Flooring, lower amount.
Mr. Mayor, I would move, with both companies, I think, being equal in quality, I would move to accept the bid from Kaiser Flooring, Kaiser Floor Contracting LLC in the amount of $43,303.76.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. There are none opposed, so that carries, thank you. The next item on the agenda, resolution 0525, health nuisance.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there are two people here tonight that would like to speak about it.
Okay, if you would like to address the commission, please come up to the podium, and otherwise, if you just want to brief us, you could just let us know, please, who you are and what you would like to say.
For those Hobbit stature. For those who don't know me, I'm Wayne Nichols, the owner of record of 308 North 6th Street in St. Mary's. Some weeks ago, August 21st, I was contacted by Chief Sid on Facebook Messenger. He seemed to be contacting me as a friendly backdoor neighbor in his words. Chief Sid warned me that my new housemate I will leave his name out, KP. He told me Mr. P had been, quote, running basically a scrapyard and allowing a homeless camp just down the street, unquote. Sid further said, quote, the city was then and likely will again declare this rubbish pile a nuisance, unquote. I took this to be the chief's opinion, not an official warning. I then explained, quote, I purposely gave him a room in order that he not be on the street. I have made clear to him that all the stuff in my driveway be removed, and he is building a lean-to on my garage to accommodate this. This is, of course, temporary, as he will then need to sort things and get rid of what is unnecessary to have here. I've made it clear that this is a priority, and as far as I can tell at this point in time, he is taking it seriously and working to follow what I have directed, unquote. I also explained that there were 1 or 2 guys helping Mr. P, but that they were not living on my property. As I said, since I was being contacted in this informal way, I took this as a friendly word from a neighbor. Some weeks later, perhaps sometime in September, I received a call from the city clerk. She told me that someone had complained to the city about my property. This was news to me since I had heard nothing since my messenger chat with Chief Sid. The clerk told me someone would be taking photos of my property, and then I would receive a letter from Mr. Cordell. From this call, I understood that this letter would arrive very soon. In fact, it did not arrive until Friday, October 3rd. Since I had been informed that someone had complained about my property to the city, I asked my neighbor across the alley if he had a problem with me and had lodged a complaint. He said no, he had not. Now please note, I am not a new resident at the current address in St. Mary's. My late wife and I moved our family into 308 North 6th Street from our previous residence on Mission Street on November 4th, 1994. I have been present at this address for 31 years. I had never had a problem with any ordinance of the city of St. Mary's until Mr. Cordell took issue with my grass a few years ago. So my question is, why has no one from the city come to see me in person to learn the reasons for my situation? As I explained to Mr. Cordell at that previous time, I am living on Social Security with some assistance from my working sons. I do not have funds to instantaneously comply with any city ordinance. I did not have $75 per hour for the city to mow my lawn at that other time, nor do I have whatever cost may be charged for non-compliance with your current resolution. From the photographs included in the nuisance packet of Mr. Cordell, I could see that these photos were taken only on Thursday, October 2nd. I know this because the items which are pictured behind my garage had only been placed there on that same day. So the photos do not indicate any progress that had been made since Mr. P began working on his pile. In fact, the said pile is much reduced from what it had been, though it is far from what I consider satisfactory. In fact, for the last 2.5 months, I have been daily insisting to Mr. P that he reduce his accoutrements so that my property return to its more or less neat status. However, it must be understood that Mr. P has certain issues, understand me well, which prevent him from acting with speed on this matter. Added to this, he now has full-time employment, actually more than full-time, so that he can only address the situation when he is available. It should be further understood that I pointedly informed him of the nuisance notice from the city. As I said, this arrived on Friday, October 3rd, after business hours. After being informed, Mr. P has made a great effort to work at reduction of his paraphernalia during the last 3 days before this meeting of the City Commission. I can say that I am hopeful he will diligently allow me to comply with the city on this matter. On the other hand, it may well be, due to Mr. P's issues, that I will need to ask for an extension with the abatement beyond the deadline of October 20th. For several years, I have hired Mr. P to do work for me at a rate which I can afford. Due to this frequent contact, he and I have become friends. He is skilled at plumbing, electrical, auto mechanics, building, and other expertise. When he was evicted from his apartment, I did not want him to be reduced to homelessness, so I offered him a place to live in exchange for work which I need to have done. I did not realize until he began moving into my property the extent of his possessions, his attachment to his possessions, and the difficulty he has in reducing his possessions. I'm asking the Commission's indulgence so that I can solve the current problem without having to evict my friend. Thank you for your kind attention.
Any questions?
Anyone living in there, living outside in tents?
No.
Nobody?
No.
Even though the picture clearly shows a tent?
No one's living in that. It was put there to dry out.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd just like to publicly kind of put out there for clarification. I did contact Mr. Nichols back when I first saw Mr. P moving in. He did read to you what I said. It was in no way meant as any kind of coercion or throwing my weight around. In fact, I am not the complainant, and one of the reasons why I actually informed the city manager was because to prevent any kind of conflict of interest or perception somehow I was forcing an issue, I kept my peace and did not pretty much make the complaint. I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to clarify that, but I am back door neighbors to them. But yeah, and that's all I'm pretty much saying. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Good evening, thank you for the time. At the time that I had the conversation with Mr.
You are?
Oh, Benjamin Belinsky. Sorry, I live at 306 North 6th Street.
Can you pull the microphone up? Thank you.
My name is Benjamin Belinsky. I live at 306 North 6th Street here in St. Mary's, neighbor to Mr. Nichols. Point of clarification about what he said there. Since that conversation I had with him, initially, there was a deadline that was set, kind of a shared understanding about when the mess was going to be cleaned up. When it wasn't cleaned up at that time, I did list the complaints since that time, and I had gone back several times to the city to complain. And I have a statement here to read, I think, to explain that a little bit. Mr. Nichols has always been a valued neighbor who has consistently demonstrated exemplary property maintenance, consideration for surrounding residents, community cooperation, and goodwill. Recent changes to the neighborhood property represent a significant departure from the high standards he holds for himself and for his community. He has always been a great example of the very best kind of neighbor, and I in no way wish for this to reflect poorly on him. I believe that this, in fact, may assist him with the situation in which one party may or may not be holding up their end of the initial agreement. When I first approached Mr. Nichols, he informed me that all the trash would be cleaned up and all the items would be stored in the garage in a matter of a few weeks. This was a couple of months ago. As far as I can tell, and from my own lights, the situation has only gotten worse, but now shows a trajectory that will with time become untenable. So I did go through and list a number of things that are in there. You can read that, or I can read them now to you if you wish. Can you read them out loud? Just got a number of them, so that's up to you. I'm comfortable doing it anyway. Okay. Then just for the clothing statement, of course, I recognize every property owner's rights. I certainly want to respect them. These concerns involve the public and personal safety, legal compliance, and community standards. I seek the council's assistance in addressing these issues through proper channels to restore neighborhood harmony and ensure all residents' well-being. And once again, emphasize again, Mr. Nichols has been a fantastic neighbor. I certainly want to continue being a neighbor to him and have him as a neighbor. This is just a departure from that, and it just doesn't seem like the gentleman who is there right now with the mess is actually cleaning it up. He's moving it around, and he might be doing the best he possibly can. And there's just the concern with the constant presence of strangers who seem to have some kind of erratic behavior to the best of my ability that I can judge, which I've listed here in the notes. So, answer any questions that you might have, but it's detailed in the notes that are there, my concerns.
I just wanted to follow up on Gerard's earlier question where, I guess you list transient activity individuals have been observed temporarily residing on the property.
Yep, and I say that because like when I get up in the morning, I can see them rising, getting up. And I don't think they're living there every single day, but they've lived there they've certainly gotten up in the morning there.
There being.
Oh, in the backyard, in the backyard. And I don't know if that's to your knowledge, or not, of course, I'm just saying what I've observed.
I'm sorry, Lisa, did you?
Yeah, I can go ahead and verify that. I'm on midnight shift right now, so 7 PM to 7 AM. There's been multiple times that I've driven by unknown people that I've stopped and talked to. They don't necessarily have to identify themselves to us as law enforcement because it's considered a consensual contact. I don't have any reason to hold them or ID them. But they are not known to me either. And I'm pretty good about knowing who we have moving around in our city in the middle of the night.
So is there a bathroom available for these people that you're aware of?
I have no idea of what facilities they use. I put in the notes, there was some suspicion of using outdoor facilities instead of going inside to use a restroom, and that was observed on one occasion. And that's why I put that in the notes, because my kids are right there. I just put a fence up, but my property's right next to it, and so I know you're not out there all the time and you can't see what they're doing, so I put that in the notes because it has been observed, so.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I spoke with Ben on Friday, I think it was Friday, right, Ben?
Yeah.
First of all, I apologize, I told you that we'd fly through the rest of the stuff. I forgot that we had BG consultants on there, so.
Certainly very important things.
You've spoken to Wayne multiple times about this, or?
I only spoke to him in the initial time and then very briefly after that. Like I said, I don't really hold Mr. Nichols at all to blame for this. I think that this is kind of a rough situation to analyze. What is the capacity of the person who's got this huge pile of trash and their capacities to deal with it appropriately? And it just seems like it's gotten out of that person's control. So that's why I'm bringing it up here.
Okay, so I guess my question, Wayne, would be directed to you. I stopped in there on Friday, walked up and down the alley. I spent about probably 15, 20 minutes looking. I did not enter your property. I stayed in the alley. How long is it gonna take? Cause if I were in Ben's position, I mean, he's a much more calm probably than I would be. It's garbage. It's not household goods. It's not, I mean, maybe some of it is, but there's a lot of just stuff that needs to go to the dump. That's all it is, in my opinion, a lot of it. And it's, in my opinion, it's very unneighborly, uncharitable to dump that on your neighbors. Because you literally are, I mean, in my opinion, dumping that on your neighbor. So you ask for an extension or, some lenience, or what kind are we looking at? Are you thinking within the next 90 days that it'll be back to what it used to look like? Or is it gonna take longer than that? Or do you want to leave some of the things where they're at? That's my question to you.
My impression when I received the nuisance notice was that I should hire somebody to get rid of all of it and then charge my new renter to pick up that bill. I wanted it gone before it became the mess that it is. I don't know how I can guarantee a time, but I would ask for probably a month or 90 days, whatever you suggest.
I don't suggest, I believe that the city staff were much.
So, someone made a complaint, we looked into it, I took it to the city attorney. We did give a day when we went through the alley to take a picture, and we did, but we took a more recent picture because someone said it had gotten worse. So that's why the picture is more recent than what it would have been some weeks ago. City attorney and I met, city attorney reviewed the photos, he believes that from the pictures, it's a nuisance as per city code. So the next step is to either adopt this resolution as presented, which would put forth a time frame and compel the property owner, not the tenant, to clean it up by a certain date. Another option would be to give them a much lesser time period. 90 days is a long time. especially if what's going on back there is going on back there from what we're being reported by our law enforcement and others. So you either adopt the resolution as presented and you put forth the time frame, or you work on another time frame, and if 90 days is too long, something shorter. We used to do this by meeting dates. But I will tell you, Mr. P, as you call him, we worked with him for over a year and also almost nothing. So there's nothing that's gonna work other than the force of the city's code and that. So I don't believe the gentleman can be worked with. Not this gentleman, the other gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Nicholson. Yeah, it's not an easy situation. Certainly appreciate your compassion and generosity to the gentleman, and that's very kind of you. Maurice brought up a point that he has a pattern over the last year or two, and the city's attempted to work with him, and it's been a struggle. And so we're kind of, you understand the pickle that we're in.
Right, I knew nothing about any of that before we moved in.
Yeah, and you certainly understand the pickle you're in, because it's not your mess, but you're the property owner, so.
Right.
I don't know, is it something where I know that sounds like everybody's different. It may just be difficult for him to make the decision to clean it up. I mean, would it be something that, you'd be open to a community effort? There's a lot of people that probably be very willing to come and help clean up a lot of this stuff. Because if he's attached to it, that we see, and this is a homelessness problem, it's a certain hoarding problem, it's a real thing that people have. If he's attached to it, it's gonna be real difficult for him to ever clean it up. And so there's gotta be some sort of willingness on his part, or unfortunately a force. Because if it's left, he has a pattern that.
Well, it's not going to be left. I won't allow it to be left.
So what can we do to be helpful to you to help move that process along? And I'm willing to, I believe you, or you'd be on a track record too of being a great guy. So what can we do to help you in the difficult situation that you're in?
Offer me something for a very reduced fee because I do not have money.
So, I mean, would you be willing if there was a volunteer group? I know that.
I would be willing, but I'm going to have a knockdown, drag out argument, which usually I have better voice for, in order to get him to that position. Because I can't just run over the top of him.
Yes, you can.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, Francis.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good point. I guess a question maybe for Chief Sid or Maurice, Mr. Mayor, is, with city code, if we put a timeline on there, I think there's something about, if timeline's not met, we can go and basically hire a contractor and, police escort, I guess, clean it all up. Is there an option for the city to maybe not have a contractor fee involved? Maybe we have another alternative if there's people willing to help Mr. Nichols? I would imagine it would be very easy to get a group of people to help you to where you don't have the fee to be incurred. I'll be there, okay? And I think
Me too, of course.
and get a small army out there, probably within 10 minutes to help you out. But I think if we can find a way to help you and make sure there's no fee incurred, would that be, that's just my perspective, Mr. Mayor. I can see he's in the struggle, it's not his fault. But the fee is the big deal. I think if we can come up with a timeline and group to help out.
Yeah, well, I think thank you. Seems to me the mechanism for the timeline is precisely this ordinance,
Well, the resolution.
the resolution. Unless we can set a timeline without having to have
So
a
Bob, you
resolution.
should put a dumpster in the alley or somewhere on the
I don't know
property?
if we could block the alley, but,
Well, it depends on how long it'd be blocked for.
yeah.
Is it a Saturday? Is it a weekend? So that's one thing we can do is we can provide a dumpster. and then we can work on the disposal costs. I mean, a contractor, this mess from another lot, one of the quotes was $3,000 or $4,000 for disposal, that sort of stuff. So we can do that, but there's gonna be a definite timeframe. You cannot not work with a timeframe. This gentleman was on property on the south, and then he moved up to Mission when we got him off of the south, and then he was there for a while, now he's moving there. So it's gonna have to be disposed of, or else he's gonna try to find another lot in town, and I heard a lean-to is being constructed. I wonder if that would require a building permit and the building materials, because he's previously tried to build a barn out of, or a shed out of scrap, and involving a tarp and other things, so I would question the permit or the quality of the, without seeing some sort of permit. So, the city can put a dumpster on the property, you can get volunteers to fill it up, and it'll be cheaper that way. So, that is one solution,
Did you want to say something, Chuck? I'm sorry.
but we want a time frame.
Yes, thank you both for coming tonight. Mr. Nichols, I understand the pickle, and I would certainly be happy to lend a hand. But my question, I really do not know how to pose this properly, but I'm going to try. There seems to be two issues. One is the mess. But the second one, where I would be concerned for Ben, is we have foot traffic that's people that we don't know, as verified by our officer over there. So is the idea is that plan A is that, hey, we clean up the property, will that then get rid of this transient foot traffic, or?
Well,
Because
think
I know, I mean, with young
that's up to the
kids,
property owner, to whoever relies on his property.
is there anything we can do to help with that,
That,
or?
see, this is where I think we
That's-
need to be a little careful, because the issue in front of us is the resolution for a health nuisance, which is the condition of the material condition of the property. So I don't think it might come up as a separate topic to be dealt with, but I think we need to answer that question.
I agree. One other thing, Wayne, I agree with Commissioner Avercamp, the other commissioners. I would even help as much as I could. And, but I'd even help you get with the cost of the dumpster. I would even donate to that personally. Because I agree, I think you have a big heart and someone's taking advantage of that. But then what you got is the repercussions from that action spill over to your neighbors. So I would be more than willing to help or find people that could help, and I would even donate if we had to try to defray the cost of that dumpster, because I think that's what a community does for one another. But it is, I think ultimately it's gotta be, you have to spearhead this.
Right.
So it seems to me we are agreed that we would like to solve the problem of the trash. We could set a timeline as we've done before without actually passing the resolution. In this case, it might be prudent to pass the resolution so that we have something like the forcing function.
So the property owner would have something to
Yes,
show the,
it has to be done.
Mr. P.
That makes sense to me based upon that, the more qualitative part of the discussion. So, then we just, I'm completely, we know what we want to do to solve the problem. The question is, what's our best action in order to facilitate that? Do you have something?
I think it's fair to, if we pass the ordinance as written tonight, with the timeline presented, but I think it's pretty obvious that there's believe that we wouldn't have a cost. We would find a way to take care of you on that. But I just wanted to ask you both, you right there, is that a solution that would be sensible and reasonable to you?
The last I had this discussion with Mr. P was that he intended to take away items himself. So I want to have the opportunity to present what the commission is proposing before anything else happens.
Well,
So
if I
you
could point out that the deadline here for compliance is the 20th of October,
Right,
which is time. But it would still be in place, so,
I understand, but he is working 12-hour shifts. So I don't know if he's going to have time, even if he's wanting to comply, I don't know if he's going to have time to move everything. So we may need more time.
Good, Mr. Mayor, question. So, is this all stuff that came over in the move, or has he continued to add to it?
This is stuff that came with the move.
He does have it tied to a local person where he's getting more stuff from. I'm not sure if it ended up on his property or not, but there, I'm not gonna say the name in the meeting here, but there is someone that does this sort of work that, just like we had a guy down at our transfer station that was cherry picking bicycles for years. This guy works for another company and is allowed to, or has access to another company, and is getting material from that place that would be similar quality that's currently there. Now, whether it's ending up here or somewhere else, I don't know. So,
And from your point of view, is it ground?
So when we had that conversation, there were definitely additional loads that were taking place after 10:30 at night. And that's when I really got concerned with the viability of the situation, especially when I saw that I think it was like over 7 pickup truck loads that eventually got dropped off. And so, I don't know from whence it came, whether it was from that place or from another place.
if it was recently, it wasn't from the other place, because that one, we hauled off tons through this, whatever, so.
Right, I only observed until 10:30 when I was working on my fence in the garage, so I haven't seen this last couple of weeks. It was just at that point when I saw how many loads were coming, I knew they all couldn't fit in the garage, even if he told you that they were gonna fit in the garage. And that's when I was like, okay, there seems to be some disingenuous behavior on this guy's part and what he's actually trying to stash in the garage or around the garage and by the garage, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem helping out, clean it up, get it back to the shape that Mr. Nichols has shown in the past. I have concern, like, this is, okay, we'll get it back to the way it was, but I have minimal confidence if based on his track record that it's gonna stay that way. So
Well, that would be up to the property owner to
I know,
prevent that.
I'm saying that this is not a recurring thing the city's gonna do, like, we should help get it back, but something has to change here. I don't, Mr. Nichols, like, that's unfortunately what you have to figure out, but like, this is not, we don't operate this way repeatedly. So I wanna make that clear, like, we'll fix it, or I'll fix it, but this has to change. I don't know to what extent the public use of facilities was, but.
I can't speak to how extensive it was. We only observed it twice where they were relieving themselves outside. If you're sleeping someplace, the assumption is that that's more common and more frequent. And because I was getting up very early in the morning before the sun was up and then seeing them get up as well from their backyard, that's when these things were witnessed.
So on the main point that the mayor is trying to make, resolution 525, yes or no? And if it's no, then what?
Okay, that is the question, and we have a determination that in fact the property is not in compliance. So we're certainly in a situation where we could declare that. Everyone in this room wants to have it cleaned up, so it seems like we should try to do that. Now, your point is an excellent one, where if we clean it up, but the root cause is if the supply side of this is not turned off, then are we gonna be doing this nuisance thing again? And that's where we have a challenge, which we don't have control over. But the question is it a nuisance property? The answer is yes. Should we do something about it? I think the answer is yes. Now, but to also give you some time, because we don't want to try to, force your decision process or your solution process too much. So I think that the prudent thing to do is to adopt the resolution maybe the question is, do we want to stick with the October 20th timeline? Based upon the fact that I know that we just issued this, but this is an ongoing problem for quite a period of time. I don't know that more time is really going to be anyone's benefit, but we could extend it. We've done that before.
I'm fine with an extension if the end result is me helping load a trailer, I'm happy to do that. So,
Mayor, make a suggestion, a motion?
Sure.
If the suggestion flies, can we just move it to maybe October, add a week to it, October 27th? And then pass the resolution as drafted. I think we have a good compromise. And we've got a lot of people take your concerns, neighbors' concerns, understanding the gentleman. But if we add a week, he's already had several months. I don't think 2 more months is gonna help him. He's got a track record, so I think we've gotta strike a balance and maybe add a week to it.
I will say this, I will be gone at that time, but I will be back on November 6th, so I would like to be there personally to help do this, because I just said I would do that, and I would like to be there to help, so if I'm maybe a little bit later. I would hate to volunteer myself and then not be there to show.
As part of your motion, I'd like you to ask the property owner to give an update on the 21st at the meeting here, if he's available.
Sure.
That way, you'll see if
What
there's
is,
progress.
what is the 6th? What day is it?
So the 21st is the next regular meeting after tonight.
What day is the 6th of November?
It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday. Does that make sense?
After 7:50.
So I have a motion to adopt resolution 0525, amending the compliance date to the 6th of November. Right, I would entertain a motion to adopt resolution 0525, amended to change the compliance date to the 6th of November.
Mr. Mayor, move to adopt resolution 0525 with the amendment of the deadline for compliance as November 6th.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed to that resolution. And I hope that gives you enough time, Wayne, because I think we all want the same outcome. Thank you. The next agenda item, planning commission and board zoning appeals. We have some.
I was talking with city clerk there, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, we're going on to planning commission and.
Oh, okay. There's a planning commission, there are 2 seats up, 1 and 2, and 2 seats up on the BZA. In the packet there's an email chain from Mr. Kelter and Mrs. Green for the planning commission, would like to be reappointed. And then on the BZA, Mr. Wilkins and Mr. Hofstad would like to be reappointed. And they're all of them for 3 years, and they all expire, I wrote a little note in there.
November 1st, 2020.
Something like that, yeah. So these are reappointments, so sometimes when we have a vacancy and there's no one there, we put it up for advertisements. But generally, if there's a reappointment, they're given a chance to get reappointed. So that's where we're at.
Concerns about that.
No, I'm in favor of all 4 of them.
That having been said, since there's no objection, I will reappoint both Patrick Wilkins, position 1, and Jimmy Hostetler, position 2, to another term on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Each term is for 3 years expiring on November 1st, 2028, and reappoint both Cecilia Green, position 1, and BJ Kelter, position 2, to another term on the Planning Commission. Each term is for 3 years expiring November 1st, 2028. All right, the last item on the agenda brings us back to the Armory.
There's a request for that. Mrs. Friselka, did we send that
And
out?
what is that event precisely?
They have a fundraiser, Christmas
Christmas
time.
auction.
You've got copies of, oh, right there you go, yeah.
Okay, so it's analogous to the one we looked at earlier.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's a fundraiser for a particular organization, yes.
Yeah, and so, notwithstanding the fact we're here to discuss this, I mean, obviously I'll open this to any discussion that anyone has, but it seems similar to me. Good, so if there's a consensus, we can waive that fee.
Okay with it? Wait.
Okay, leaving it in the future, I do look forward to that conversation, because I think we're being too lenient on it. We do have to cost as public, but at least for consistency right now, with how we treated the other situation this evening, yeah, I'm in agreement, but discuss it next week.
So that's, yeah,
If I could,
okay,
just a question, are we able to, maybe this is 2 weeks from now, but can we look at waived versus non-waived?
Oh, on rentals?
What have we, what have we passed?
yeah, what are we charging for? That'd be the shorter list, just let me know.
We'll get you some information on the armored rental. Because Francis had already added it to the agenda, so we'll try to
Yeah,
get some.
that's part of that.
Yeah, but it's a
How many
data
more
policy,
free-
good idea. Like, what,
free
what,
use?
yeah, what are we charging for and what are we not charging for? Maybe over the last 2 years.
What or who?
Yeah, why not, if we can.
You wanna know what or who we are charging and who we are not charging?
Well, events, what are the events?
Oh,
for which
okay,
we-
events,
that's what I
yeah,
mean.
kind of.
What events have we?
What do they get waived for?
And what have we not? I know we upped the rent, and I know weddings are a big thing, and I know weddings are always paid for. I'd just like to see where,
Some data?
yes.
All right, some easy data.
Any reports?
Bob, you can give an update on the trees?
Oh, trees, we're picking up Friday morning, 28 trees will be planted throughout the park. There's a.
What size?
Oh, they're 6 to 8 foot.
Oh. Yeah.
Anything else? Picking up a pickleball court while you're at it?
Get that order tomorrow.
All right,
I don't have anything else to add.
all right, know what that means.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn, do I have a second?